The Przewalskis Wild Horse, the national animal and symbol of Mongolia. In the vast wind-swept steppes of Mongolia, where the sky meets endless grasslands and ancient traditions endure, roams a creature that embodies the spirit of this land, the Przewalski's horse. Known locally as Takhi, meaning spirit or spiritual, this remarkable animal represents more than just Mongolia's national symbol. It is a living testament to survival, resilience, and the deep connection between a people and their natural heritage. A living relic of prehistoric times. The Przewalski's horse, Equus ferus Przewalski, stands as the last truly wild horse species on Earth. Unlike the Mustangs of America or the Brumbies of Australia, which are feral descendants of domesticated horses, the Przewalski's horse has never been successfully domesticated. Its genetic lineage stretches back thousands of years, making it a living window into the prehistoric past when wild horses thundered across the Eurasian steppes. These stocky, compact horses stand approximately 12 to 14 hands high at the shoulder, considerably smaller than most domestic horse breeds. Their bodies are built for survival in harsh environments, with short, muscular legs, a thick neck, and a robust frame that can withstand the extreme temperatures of the Mongolian climate, where summer heat can exceed 40 degrees Celsius and winter cold can plummet to minus 40 degrees. The physical appearance of the Przewalski's horse is distinctive and striking. Their coat ranges from a pale reddish-brown to a darker dun color, with a characteristic pale belly and muzzle. A dark, upright mane runs along their neck, lacking the long, flowing quality of domestic horses, instead standing erect like a mohawk. This primitive feature is one of several traits that distinguish them from their domesticated cousins. Dark stockings mark their lower legs, and a dorsal stripe runs along their back, markings that hint at their ancient origins. Perhaps most telling is their chromosome count. While domestic horses have 64 chromosomes, Przewalski's horses have 66, representing a fundamental genetic difference that underscores their status as a separate subspecies. This genetic distinctiveness has fascinated scientists and conservationists, making the species invaluable for understanding equine evolution and the history of horse domestication. Discovery and near extinction. The Western world first became aware of these remarkable horses in the 1870s through the expeditions of Russian explorer and naturalist Nikolai Przewalski, after whom the species was eventually named. During his travels through Central Asia, Przewalski obtained skulls and hides of these wild horses from local hunters, bringing them back to Europe where scientists recognized them as distinct from domestic horses. However, by the time of their scientific discovery, the Przewalski's horse was already in decline. Hunting pressure, habitat loss due to expanding human settlements and livestock grazing, harsh winters, and competition with domestic animals for resources all contributed to their dwindling numbers. The final blow came in the mid-20th century when a combination of severe winters, known as dzud in Mongolia, and increased human activity pushed the species to the brink. The last confirmed sighting of a Przewalski's horse in the wild occurred in 1969 in the Dzungarian Gobi Desert. By the 1960s, the species was declared extinct in the wild, surviving only in captivity in zoos and breeding programs across Europe and North America. At its lowest point, the entire global population descended from just 12 founder animals captured in the early 20th century. This genetic bottleneck represented both a crisis and a challenge. Could a species survive with such limited genetic diversity? The remarkable journey back from extinction. The story of the Przewalski's horses' return from extinction stands as one of conservation's greatest success stories. The rescue began in earnest in the 1970s and 1980s when conservationists, scientists, and government officials recognized that coordinated international action was necessary to save the species. Zoos and wildlife parks worldwide participated in carefully managed breeding programs, with every birth meticulously recorded in international studbooks. These breeding efforts focused on maximizing genetic diversity and maintaining the health of the captive population. By the 1990s, the captive population had grown sufficiently to consider the once unthinkable, reintroducing these horses to their ancestral homeland. In 1992, the first Przewalski's horses in over 2 decades set hoof on Mongolian soil. They were released in Hustai National Park, a protected area approximately 100 kilometers southwest of the capital, Ulaanbaatar. This marked the beginning of an ambitious and unprecedented rewilding program. Other reintroduction sites followed, including Takhi in the Great Gobi Bee strictly protected area and Komental in the buffer zone of the Kar-US Nur National Park. The reintroduction process was painstaking and complex. Horses first underwent acclimatization in large enclosures where they could adapt to the climate and forage on natural vegetation. Staff monitored their health, behavior, and social structures. Gradually, groups were released into progressively larger areas until they could roam freely across the steppe. Scientists and rangers continued to monitor these populations, studying their adaptation to life in the wild and intervening only when necessary for the survival of individuals or groups. The results exceeded even optimistic expectations. The horses demonstrated remarkable resilience, readapting to behaviors their ancestors had practiced thousands of years before. They formed natural harems consisting of one stallion, several mares, and their offspring. Bachelor males formed separate groups, competing for the chance to establish their own harems. They learned to find water sources, navigate seasonal migrations, and avoid predators such as wolves. Today, the wild population of Przewalskis horses in Mongolia numbers over 400 individuals, with additional populations in China and small reintroduced groups in other parts of their former range. In 2008, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, downgraded the species from extinct in the wild to critically endangered, and more recently to endangered, a testament to the success of conservation efforts. Cultural and spiritual significance in Mongolia. For Mongolians, the Takhi represents far more than an endangered species or conservation success story. These horses are woven into the cultural and spiritual fabric of the nation, embodying values that have defined Mongolian identity for centuries. Mongolia's history is inseparable from horses. The Mongol Empire, established by Genghis Khan in the 13th century, was built on horseback. Mongolian warriors' exceptional horsemanship and their horses' endurance allowed them to create the largest contiguous land empire in history. Horses provided transportation, food, and companionship in a harsh landscape where survival depended on mobility and adaptation. While the Przewalski's horse was never domesticated, it represents the wild spirit from which all horses descended, the untamed essence of freedom and strength. Mongolian folklore and oral traditions speak of wild horses as spiritual beings, and the name Takhi itself reflects this reverence. To Mongolians, these horses symbolize the soul of the steppe, creatures that belong to the land in the purest sense. The designation of the Przewalski's horse as Mongolia's national animal reinforces its cultural importance. This recognition acknowledges not only the species' biological uniqueness but also its role as a symbol of national pride, resilience, and the enduring relationship between Mongolians and their environment. The successful reintroduction program has become a source of international prestige, demonstrating Mongolia's commitment to conservation and environmental stewardship. In modern Mongolia, the Takhi appears in artwork, literature, and popular culture. Conservation organizations use the image of these horses to promote environmental awareness and ecotourism. Visitors from around the world travel to Mongolia specifically to see these remarkable animals in their natural habitat, providing economic benefits to local communities and creating incentives for continued conservation. Ecological importance and habitat. Beyond their cultural significance, Przewalski's horses play a crucial role in the steppe ecosystem. As large herbivores, they are ecosystem engineers that shape the landscape through their grazing patterns. They consume a variety of grasses, herbs, and shrubs, and their selective feeding helps maintain plant diversity and prevents any single species from dominating the landscape. Their grazing creates a mosaic of vegetation heights and types, which benefits other species. Birds, small mammals, and insects depend on this diversity for food and habitat. The horse's dung fertilizes the soil and provides nutrients for dung beetles and other decomposers, supporting the broader food web. Their presence also attracts predators, including wolves, which help regulate populations of smaller herbivores and maintain ecological balance. The steppe ecosystem where Przewalski's horses live is characterized by dramatic seasonal variations. Summers are brief and productive, with grasses and wildflowers blooming across the landscape. Winters are long, cold, and harsh, with limited food availability and extreme temperatures. The horses have evolved remarkable adaptations to survive these conditions. They grow thick winter coats that protect against bitter winds and freezing temperatures. They can dig through snow to reach buried grasses and can survive on lower quality forage when necessary. Water availability is another critical factor. The horses must have access to water sources, and their seasonal movements often follow the availability of water and high-quality grazing. Understanding these movement patterns has been essential for conservation planning, helping managers identify critical habitats that must be protected to ensure the long-term survival of reintroduced populations. Challenges and ongoing conservation efforts. Despite remarkable progress, the the Przewalski's horse still faces significant challenges. The species remains endangered, with a relatively small wild population vulnerable to disease, harsh weather events, and genetic issues related to their limited founder population. Climate change poses an emerging threat, potentially altering the steppe ecosystem and affecting water availability and vegetation patterns. Habitat fragmentation and degradation continue to present concerns. As Mongolia's human population grows and development expands, protected areas may face increased pressure. Mining operations, infrastructure projects, and expanding livestock grazing can reduce available habitat and create barriers to horse movements. Maintaining habitat connectivity between different populations is crucial for genetic exchange and long-term viability. Disease is another significant risk. The concentrated populations in reintroduction sites could be vulnerable to outbreaks that might devastate the entire wild population. Researchers monitor the horse's health closely and have developed protocols for responding to disease outbreaks, but the risk remains ever present. Human-wildlife conflict occasionally arises, particularly regarding competition for water and grazing between wild horses and domestic livestock. In dry years, these conflicts can intensify, requiring careful management and community engagement to find solutions that benefit both conservation goals and local livelihoods. Conservation organizations continue their work on multiple fronts. Breeding programs in zoos maintain a safety net population and provide genetic diversity for potential future reintroductions. Research programs study horse behavior, genetics, health, and ecology, providing information essential for effective management. Education initiatives raise awareness among Mongolian citizens and the international community about the importance of conserving the Takhi. International cooperation remains vital. Organizations from Europe, North America, and Asia work together with Mongolian partners, sharing expertise, funding, and resources. This collaborative approach has been fundamental to the program's success and will continue to be essential as conservation efforts evolve. A symbol of hope and resilience. The story of the Przewalski's horse transcends the boundaries of biology and conservation. It represents humanity's capacity to recognize its mistakes and work toward redemption. These horses nearly vanished from Earth due to human activities, yet through human dedication and effort, they have returned to gallop once more across the Mongolian steppe. For Mongolia, the Takhi symbolizes the nation's identity: wild, free, resilient, and deeply connected to the land. In a rapidly changing world where traditional ways of life face pressure from modernization and globalization, the Przewalski's horse stands as a reminder of what makes Mongolia unique. It represents the possibility of balancing progress with preservation, of honoring the past while building the future. The success of the Przewalski's horse reintroduction program offers hope for other endangered species and demonstrates that extinction need not be inevitable. With sufficient commitment, international cooperation, and resources, even species on the brink can be brought back from the edge. This success story inspires similar efforts worldwide, from the return of gray wolves to Yellowstone to the conservation of mountain gorillas in Central Africa. As herds of Takhi graze peacefully on the Mongolian steppe, watched over by dedicated rangers and researchers, they embody a promise, a commitment to preserving Earth's biodiversity for future generations. They remind us that we share this planet with countless other species, each with its own right to exist and thrive. The Przewalski's horse, once lost and now found, stands as Mongolia's national treasure and a global symbol of conservation success, resilience, and the enduring spirit of the wild.